Abortion protesters disrupted a mass for unborn lives. It happened at St. Joseph Cathedral in Columbus, Ohio on the anniversary of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision. The Catholic Medical Association is now calling on President Joe Biden and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to condemn the demonstration. On this feast of the conversion of St. Paul the Apostle, we take a closer look at his transformation from being a persecutor of Christians to being a devoted follower of Jesus Christ. Matthew Bunson, EWTN Executive Editor and Washington Bureau Chief, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's talk a little bit about the history of this feast. Tell us just a little bit about the conversion of Saul to become St. Paul. Who was he? Why was he opposed to Christianity in the beginning?
Well, to understand Paul, we have to understand that he was two things. He was brilliantly educated. We actually don't know that much about his early life, but we know that he received a magnificent education in Jerusalem among the best of the rabbis, one in particular, Rabbi Gamaliel. I'll come back to him in a second. The second important point to know about Paul, or Saul, was that he had citizenship in the Roman Empire. That Roman citizenship was going to stand him in good stead for years to come as he traveled the Roman Empire, evangelizing, preaching Jesus. But it was part of that training that he received from Gamaliel, the feet of Gamaliel, that he developed a strong sense for the Jewish faith. And so with the rise of Christianity, the rise of the Christians in Jerusalem, he saw them as a dangerous sect that had to be rooted out and destroyed, which is why, as he himself noted, he was consenting unto the death of St. Stephen, the proto-martyr in the history of the church, and then asked and received the commission to go to Damascus to continue the persecution of Christians there. And it was on that road that he had that famous encounter with Jesus Christ.
And let's talk about that bigger picture. Take us through the conversion to St. Paul and its symbolism.
Well, I mentioned Gamaliel. The Rabbi Gamaliel made an important point to the Sanhedrin as they were embarking on their persecution of the early Christians. He said that if this work is of men, it will fail. But if this work is of God, you cannot destroy it. And he said, in fact, you may, in the end, be opposing God. And that was something that Paul didn't take to heart. And yet here he was on the road to Damascus, and he has this encounter with a flash of light. So 2 points in that. This flash of light and then this voice saying, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And that transforming moment left him blind. And in that moment, too, he had that transforming power of grace that led him to become Paul the Evangelist.
What lessons can we take away from St. Paul's missionary work?
In our own lives, we have to embrace that great love that he discovered for Jesus Christ, to have that encounter with Jesus Christ. And then, as Paul felt so compelled to do, to carry that out into the world, to be one of the greatest evangelists in the history of the church. But that was born out of his passion to bring Christ Jesus to others, that they might have the same encounter that he did.
Anything else we should know about this great saint?
Well, Paul left us this legacy of writings. Of course, he wrote about a third of the New Testament. In those letters, we see the very drama of the moment of early Christianity, his conversion, and then his own suffering. So one of the things that we have to be aware of and to prepare for in our own journey as believers, as Christians, is that we may be asked to suffer. Paul endured multiple hardships, shipwrecks, arrests, torture, ultimately beheading. Most of us will not be asked to endure that type of suffering. But in a world today that is rejecting Christ Jesus, we can look to Saul for the courage to speak out, to withstand the stonings of words that we often get today, but also to have the courage to stand up to that and to proclaim fearlessly, boldly, Christ Jesus.
Dr. Matthew Bunson, EWTN Executive Editor and Washington Bureau Chief, thank you so much for being with us here today and sharing.
Good to be with you.